The story begins with a team of miners leaving the Shookham Hills coal mine. A young miner, Dec, asks his supervisor and father, Shutman, to be lenient with a colleague who broke safety protocols. Suddenly, Dec screams, and when Shutman turns around, he sees a strange entity grabbing Dec and dragging him toward the mine entrance. Shutman tries to save his son, but the creature injures his shoulder, leaving him paralyzed. Helpless, Shutman can only watch as Dec disappears into the darkness. Sometime later, the mine is closed because of a fire that experts predict will burn for decades. The entire area is declared an ecological disaster zone. Over the years, 33 people have died, and 162 have gone missing. One day, a guide named Ariana receives a request from a group of scientists to explore the mine. She takes the team Darren, Sean, Terry, and Jamie to the site. They have mixed feelings about her role. Some doubt her professionalism, while others find her too serious. All are curious about how she navigates the unmarked roads so confidently. Ariana remains composed and refuses to discuss her previous clients, earning their respect. The group eventually arrives in a small settlement and stops at a store. Ariana goes inside to buy supplies and ask for directions to Shookham Hills. The store owner claims to have never heard of the burned-down town from the 1970s. Ariana reminds him that it appeared on a 1972 map but disappeared afterward. When she insists, the man advises them to leave the way they came and never return. As Ariana exits the store, the owner contacts someone named Dale Parrots to report a problem. Ariana says nothing to her clients and advises them to take their seats. However, as soon as they start driving, another car begins to follow them, which makes the group uneasy. They start arguing, deciding whether they should turn back when the girl initiates a real chase, successfully escaping her pursuers and tracking the location where their car turned into the forest. Ariana drives her vehicle to this spot and finds a dirt road. Following it, the team encounters an electric fence blocking the path. Warning signs about danger are posted everywhere, raising questions about what could be so heavily protected in the middle of the forest. But this doesn't stop anyone. While the men try to figure out how to get past the fence, Ariana uses a rope to climb a tall tree and jumps down on the other side. The men are forced to follow her. After crossing the fence, the group continues down the old road and soon arrives at a river, where they decide to take a break. Sean explains that they should watch out for sinkholes, which form when the ground collapses over an underground cavity. People, animals, vehicles, and sometimes entire houses can fall into them. These sinkholes often occur when underground coal seems burn out, and it's quite possible that such a disaster happened here, although nothing is certain yet. Besides, the mining town suddenly disappeared for unknown reasons. However, Sean is not convinced it was a coal mine. It might have been a rare earth metal deposit or something similar to the Kolos super-deep borehole in Siberia. When the Russians tried to drill the deepest shaft, they reached a void at 12 kilometers. When scientists recorded the sounds emanating from it, it caused horror, as it seemed like people were screaming in hellish agony. They lowered a heat-resistant microphone and recorded those sounds. But Darren mocks these theories, claiming that it's typically the echo of tectonic plate friction, which can occur anywhere the ground's integrity is compromised by mines. Sean recalls that this is exactly where the American government attempted to drill a similar super-deep borehole, and people simply disappeared. A debate unfolds among the team, during which Sean reminds them that myths don't arise without basis. However, Darren remains convinced it was merely an ecological disaster. Meanwhile, the local residents discover a breach in the electric fence and try to figure out who and when this might have happened. The wire wasn't cut but torn, suggesting it was unlikely caused by humans. Moreover, it becomes clear that the wire was pulled from the other side. Residents inspect shafts covered with iron grills in the ground, and one man discovers a small hole in the grill. When he leans toward it, something strikes him hard on the head. Elsewhere, part of the scientific group settles down to sleep in tents. Darren explains that his acquaintance recommended Ariana after she accompanied him on an expedition in Tanzania. Despite her unpleasant nature, the girl is a true professional and remarkably brave. Why her personality is unpleasant remains unclear, but it's not a focus at the moment. Meanwhile, the leader of the locals, Shutman, orders one of his men, Dale, to find the outsiders and get rid of them at all costs. Back at the geologist camp, Darren speaks about Ariana and his professional friends Terry, an excellent technician, Sean, a respected geologist, and Jamie, a security guard. This raises suspicions for Ariana, who wonders why the scientists need protection and is curious about what they expect to find. Darren admits that the area likely contains unusual coal anthracite of exceptionally high quality. If they can collect samples and determine what causes it to burn, it might help prevent such fires in the future. Ariana is surprised, but Darren reminds her that nearly 1,000 people disappeared here, and such things don't happen without cause. Darren notes inconsistencies, remarking that the number of missing people constantly changes. The team agrees that 162 people are officially missing and that Shookham Hills, once home to about 1,000 residents, vanished completely. In the morning, the group continues their journey, marveling at the modern alert systems installed nearby. In the area, isolated passages in the ground are often encountered. Soon, the group reaches abandoned buildings, but Ariana hears the sound of an engine and orders the men to hide. They manage to remain out of sight from Dale, who is searching for them. After waiting for the car to leave, the scientists continue on, spotting bursts of hot air erupting from the ground, confirming that the rock is burning. Unexpectedly, they see the houses of the vanished town, Shookham Hills. The group inspects the structures, surprised that they survived despite being built over 100 years ago. These houses have stood for half a century. Upon entering an old shop, they find everything intact, as if the residents vanished into thin air or left in a hurry. While examining the building, they emerge on the other side and find themselves at the edge of a massive sinkhole formed where the coal seam used to be. Despite their excitement over the discovery, they are surprised to find the sinkhole covered with an improvised, electrified lid. They breach the barrier and lower sensors into the sinkhole to map the tunnels below and analyze the air composition in the mine. Based on the collected data, what they were searching for is indeed inside. Suddenly, Darren hears a loud growling noise in his headphones. Terry takes the headphones to listen but doesn't notice that one foot is caught in the rope loop holding the device in the sinkhole. Moments later, someone or something strongly pulls the rope, dragging Terry into the pit. Everything happens quickly, and the team only hears his cries for help, unable to understand what's going on. Ariana and Jamie immediately descend into the karst sinkhole, attempting to locate Terry, but their search is fruitless. Meanwhile, Dale arrives at the sinkhole, furious that they open the lid. He threatens them with a weapon and demands they close the lid immediately, ignoring the fact that there are people below. He tries to cut the ropes and shut the cover, but Sean knocks him out to protect his friends. When Ariana returns, she reports that Terry is lost, gas levels are off the charts, and monstrous creatures inhabit the tunnels. The group flees into the forest in Dale's car. Sean and Darren argue again, causing the vehicle to lose control and end up without a wheel. They are forced to continue on foot. Meanwhile, Dale regains consciousness and informs the locals about the breach in his section. An alarm is triggered, terrifying the scientists. Ariana demands that they follow her lead. Suddenly, they are attacked by creatures and scatter, losing Sean in the chaos. They come across a road where a car is driving. Ariana and Jamie are rescued by a group of locals led by Shutman, who used to own the mines. He explains that the mines are home to monsters, which are the real reason behind the town's disappearance. The surviving townsfolk have stayed behind to contain these creatures, and Shutman considers this place a purgatory. Ariana volunteers to return with two locals, Elroy and Shelby, to show them the sinkhole they opened and to try to find Terry and Sean. Darren and Jamie decide to accompany her. However, as soon as they step outside, they receive a message from a lookout that the monsters have surfaced and there are many of them. Elroy sacrifices himself to distract the creatures and give his friends a chance to reach and close the sinkhole. The rest of the group flees to an underground shelter, but it turns out the monsters have already entered. It's impossible to hide from them because their hearing is far superior to that of humans, and the slightest sound gives them away. A girl named Shelby also decides to distract the creatures, ordering Ariana and the men to run and never allow themselves to be caught by the monsters. This was expected. The scientists attempt to escape, but they are pursued. Jamie tries to kill the creatures with a grenade, but one attacks him, knocking the grenade out of his hands. An explosion occurs, killing Jamie. Darren and Ariana continue on their own. Exhausted, Darren confesses to Ariana that this expedition was not organized to map the area as he had claimed. He is being paid by a coal company that is after a rare mineral in the caves, and his friends died because of his greed. In turn, Ariana admits that during her last climb, her climbing partner was left dangling on a rope. Unable to lift him, she cut the rope to save herself, but she promises that this time she will save Darren. However, Darren refuses to go any further. Ariana leaves, promising to return with help. Meanwhile, Shutman's team is shooting at the creatures that have surfaced. Ariana hears the gunfire and heads toward it. She makes it to the surface but is grabbed by one of the creatures, which paralyzes her with its venom. Later, she regains consciousness on a raft piloted by one of the creatures, with Shelby's corpse lying next to her. When they reach the lair, she finds Darren and Sean, who have also been captured. Sean explains that the creatures are a species that reproduces and colonizes like ants or bees. However, he is soon grabbed and fed to the Queen, a bloated, immobile monster with teeth. The creatures attempt to feed Ariana to the Queen as well, but she uses a grenade given to her by Darren to kill the Queen. They escape and begin climbing a rope to safety. One of the creatures attacks Darren. Ariana gives him a knife to defend himself, but realizing he is poisoned, Darren cuts the rope, sacrificing himself to save her. Local residents arrive, and one attempts to cut the rope to doom Ariana, but Shutman stops him and helps her escape. The locals use flamethrowers and rifles to drive the creatures back into the tunnels. Later, Shutman takes Ariana back beyond the fence. He tells her about the death of his son and asks her to help him drive the monsters underground. She initially refuses, doubting humanity's ability to defeat the creatures, but moments later returns, determined to fight.